Hello, world. I had a very interesting couple of dreams last night. I've been reading a book, this one here, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. It's kind of old. I picked it up from I'm not sure actually where I picked it up, somewhere online, secondhand, and fascinating read into some of the benefits also that can happen through lucid dreaming, also how to do it. I coincidentally, I'm here in Portugal and I've been waking up when the sun comes up and going to bed much more earlier than I normally would be. And something that started to happen also is I naturally started waking up maybe around 4 o'clock for a while, and then I'd get a bit tired and then go back to bed. And in this book it says one of the most effective methods actually to start lucid dreaming is to start waking up much earlier. Be active like around 4 or so, be active for a couple of hours and then go back to bed. And this phase when you go back to bed is normally the period where lucid dreaming is much easier for that to happen. And I'd studied the book a little bit before and had one or two successful attempts of doing it, which is like really really amazing. The first time it happened, you're like, holy shit, like this is actually a thing. And yeah, it wasn't really on my I wasn't really actively searching for it, but it just happened last night. I had three different lucid dreams. It's kind of all tied into one, and I had to start thinking about dreams a little bit. So, and yeah, like it started out the first one. I was in kind of like a video game type scenario, like those walls, and I there was I had like some pink remote control sort of gun thing, and I was like, well, I'd like to shoot some things. I would like to have fun shooting things, and it didn't instantly happen that there were things around that I could shoot, but it took a while until there was some sort of like the things that I had thought about, like these or visualized. I wanted to be able to shoot some sort of a reptile dinosaur thing. That these started coming around, and this was quite fun. And then it went to the next one, and already at that point I was quite aware of dreaming, but not perhaps like fully like, I'm really dreaming here. And then it went into the next one where I was like, I'm dreaming. Let me do the fly thing. That's like my go-to check. If I can fly, I'm in a dream. And so normally what would happen, or like I've attempted many times, I've become aware of the fact I'm in a dream, and then I drop out as soon as I fly because I get really excited. So this time that didn't happen. So I was able to fly, and I was like, yeah, cool. Like I know I was already somehow was convinced, and it didn't really excite me at all. But it's a bit blurry what happened, what I did after that. I think I started actually wondering, like why, like what is possible for me to do, and like just sort of like grasping my consciousness in that sort of place a little bit. And then it went into the next place where I was thinking about, well, if it's the dream world, then I can do whatever it is that I want, and I don't need to be ashamed. And I started getting into like all of these seedy sexual things that I could do, and yeah, so a couple of a couple cool things about the book is it also says, like you can explore different scenarios. If you have fears of let's say public speaking or other sort of things like that, you can actually very easily practice these in this sort of scenario, and you'll be confronted with very similar emotions. And you'll start to learn also, how to treat your real life and to act in your real life in a much more different manner. And that was just interesting to see, right? As soon as I thought like, oh, this is a dream world, nothing I do really has consequences, much more likely to do certain things and to not block myself in certain ways. be more open to really listening to my desires. And another thing that I found was quite interesting is, even though it was still like a dream state and more subconscious and also different than what, than the state of the world that I'm in right now, it wasn't like everything. It's like, I could decide to sort of fly, I had more control, let's say, over the gravity and motion, but it wasn't like I was noticing many things around me as well. And I was like, theoretically, these are also under my dream state control, but they're not changing instantaneously. Like, I can't just be like, boom, everything is the way I am. There's still somehow a film going on around me, which is giving me stability and the ability to interact and play out with different elements in the world. And I realized as well, what's been happening the last few months with me here is, I've been very much, I would say, like, letting myself go, not trying to clutch on to people, moments, activities, or things that would give me safety, but at the same time, like, let's say a false sort of sense of safety, right? Holding on to what we know, instead of really letting go and going into a new adventure and being open to the new possibilities of life, which is very scary as well. Like, where are you going to live and how are you going to get money and, who are your friends and all of this stuff. So, a lot of people talk about these techniques of, the secret or visualization and synchronicity, and it's very interesting to start to imagine how things might be, and you don't grasp onto it. There's a possibilities that could come, but it's very interesting to see when those things somehow do pop up, or a couple of months later, like, these lines start to connect, and it's like, wow, this is just what I sort of wanted or wished for, and it was very interesting to see that also in the lucid dream state, but to a much quicker degree, right? Like, I want to fly, it happened. I wanted to, shoot some dinosaurs, and it's not like that happened straight away, but eventually that materialized. So it's very interesting to see, like, maybe there's just different layers of this happening all throughout the world. Like, and that ties into like a bit more of a trippy or philosophical sort of idea. There's quite a few people, especially in the tech world, who say it's possible. I think, like, for instance, Zuckerberg or even Elon Musk has talked about, many others too, right? Like, we could be living in a virtual world, or technology, like, because of the rate of technology, it's progressing so fast. Potentially, like, this has already happened in the past, and now we're in like a virtual world and we don't know it. And I have a different opinion on this, and this is more of the essence of, well, people want to make something that's better than what is, or what already exists, what the universe has produced or is producing. You would need a greater amount of intelligence, let's say, to be able to do that, for it to be a better experience, and to really want to immerse in there and to forget about the fact that you're immersed in that experience, and to completely, like, I don't want to be worried about the troubles of the real world. So as far as I can tell, like, nature and any sort of a system that would create something is going to be more intelligent than the system that it creates. So there is the possibility, of course, that that's not the case, but I don't, in this realm or world or consciousness, like, it definitely doesn't seem to be something that I've seen. And the people who are talking about this, even Musk or Zuckerberg, however intelligent they may want to be, I don't believe they're the people either to be able to make something more beautiful and more enjoyable than what currently exists. So, yeah, I mean, all of the suffering and the pain and all of these sort of things also have their place, and there are possibilities to get blissed out on ecstasy, and even without, taking drugs or going into these virtual worlds. So there is that option as well, right? And like part of any experience or game, you might say, is overcoming challenges and finding challenges and figuring out what to do. And this is a very big challenge that a lot of us have in life, and to see that is actually maybe potentially that's why the universe is the way it is, or why we've evolved this way, even just for the fact that novelty and somehow fun. So I want to wrap this up by talking briefly about a couple of also other false, it's hard to say if that's a false precept, like what those people are talking about or assuming as if it's wrong or false. I just have another viewpoint. I'm gonna learn to stop saying that. Yeah, I was watching there was a post on Hacker News about Nvidia. They're bringing out like some new chips, which are designed to handle workloads for AI, and mentioning that we have billions of points of data and input, and gigabyte or tera or petabytes of information and data that we're needing to process. And these machines that they're building, or this chip, is really fast and great, and it has the CPU next to the GPU, and it's just all the top stuff. And something that I had to think about, because I'm in the field now of coming up with a new computational model, was something that Sussman said in his book. What's the name of it? I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, Software Design for Flexibility. He also looks a lot to nature and biology to understand how systems work, and to get inspiration, and to how flexible and how dynamic and how much information is being propagated and computed in these very small organisms. And I think it's a cell or DNA. He was saying there's like 1 gigabyte of information in there, and the DNA, and out of that, like a whole being, a whole human comes into existence. And out of, you change like even one little bit or byte of that, now you get an elephant or a mouse. And I'm very curious to start more exploring through a lot of my understanding of the way the world works and how to improve these sort of systems has come from really also exploring not biology but my own psychology, the world around me, being interested in like how do my dreams work, what's actually happening, what are my thoughts, and how does this affect things around? Who am I? What am I, the observer? And playing with these different elements gave me a couple of intimate understandings as to potentially how to get closer to having this parallel computation, and to have systems compute in a much higher manner of efficiency, so that we don't need these massive new chips and billions and petabytes of data and everything. But if you're able to compute, let's say, efficiently in a different manner, then you need much less hardware, energy, time for development, all of this sort of stuff. You get much more leverage for a lot less. So that's the tie-in to those different topics. We'll practice talking about this and getting clearer about it, and I'm going to be working on some of the design for MVP we're working on. I can put a link to that in the chat as well, and hope to have more information out about this as it becomes available and ready.